I'd like to welcome you all to this week's report. We had a little bit of weather that came through on Monday that kind of messed things up earlier this week, but the good news is that's gone, and it didn't have too much of an impact on water conditions because it was fairly short-lived. And we do have some better weather in the forecast, so let's go to the map. Saturday we have pretty good weather all over Southern California. It's variable winds, a little bit of south winded spots, lower Channel Islands, stuff like that, but not anything to write home about. Sunday we're transitioning to more of a westerly afternoon wind, which is going to get pretty significant up the Channel Islands. But other than there in Clemente and Nick, it's not really going to affect you too bad. So Sunday's going to be very fishable in the morning, a little breezy in the afternoon. Saturday should be nice all day long. So let's take a look at what's happening. Starting up the Channel Islands, it's still good rock fishing, and boats are still seeing the occasional school of sea bass, but as of yet, nothing's been caught. The Aloha Spirit metered a few schools again this week, and they had pretty good rock fishing, as did the other sport boats. On Saturday, my friends Jay Jones and Gary Reyes ran up to Miguel in questionable weather. That ended up being pretty nice for them, so good job on that. But they loaded up on big reds and sheephead, lingcod, other stuff like that on artificial lures. Reported really good fishing up there. So if you had a good weather window, it's definitely worth the run up there. Not much going on at Nick right now, so I'm not even going to cover that. It's kind of just basically the same as it's been. Heading out to San Clemente Island, the yellowtail that were biting on squid there seemed to have dried up. But boats fishing out there, having good bonita fishing, calico bass, and rock fishing. Fury was out there earlier this week, loaded up on everything except yellows, and I'm sure some skip guys go over there this weekend. The bass should be biting a lot better than they were at least a month ago when I was last there. Catalina, it's been good by Catalina standards. My buddy Aaron Graham that runs the Native Sun been catching a few lings and reds at the mediocre spot, as he and I joke about it, referring to it as, but it's not great over there, but it's fishable, and as far as Catalina goes, it seems to be biting pretty well. Still slow rock fishing along the coast. In most areas, I actually went out Saturday morning to fish calicos at Palos Verdes, and it was slow. We only had a couple fish. But the picture I'm going to show you here is one that my friend Rob Cato got a couple weeks ago fishing with Benny Florentino in that same area. So there's bigger fish around biting. It's just conditions aren't great. It's 60-degree water at Point Furman and 57 up around the corner at Rocky. Matt and I ended up going outside of Rocky Point and limited that on small reds on jigs, and then called it a day. But we saw some bass. They bit service lures, so it's pointing in the right direction anyway. Nothing much else is happening along the beach until you get down to the Coronado Islands. And before the storm, the yellows were actually biting pretty good. I think the San Diego had 50 fish one day. And I had a friend go down there in a skiff on Friday and get a yellow and a bunch of big bonita on jigs. So there hasn't been a lot of coverage down there since the storm, but hopefully by this weekend I'll relocate the fish and see what's happening down there. The big news this weekend is the bluefin are biting better for boats fishing in Mexican waters. Now, these are bigger fish. They're not your normal early season fish. There's 60 to 80 pound average with fish up to 150 pounds being caught. And what I've been seeing from the sport boats reporting down there is having the right equipment and using the right equipment at the right time is the key to catching fish. The Fortune was down there over the weekend, and they had limits of bluefin for their, I think, 11 people, but they got all their fish on either fly line, sinker rigs, or flat fall type jigs. Those fish are biting best in the afternoon. At night, they're getting some fish during the day. But they basically had a charter full of guys that were prepared to catch those bigger fish. The Tribune, on the other hand, I'm reading the report they had posted up there. They had one bluefin tuna and I think 16 yellowtail for their day and a half trip. And the captain reported that the guys just weren't geared right. And every time they'd hook fish, they'd lose them because guys are dropping down 30-pound line when they're saying fish 60 and 80-pound line. So you really, if you're going to go on one of those trips, you absolutely need to have the right gear. You're just wasting not just your time, but your other passengers' time. You hook a 100-pound plus bluefin on 30 or 40-pound on a sport boat, and that boat's not going anywhere for a long time. You're probably going to end up losing the fish anyway. So if you don't have the gear, borrow it. They rent it at the landings, Costs a few bucks, but it's worth it. Just get it. If you don't want to do that, get on a 4 or 6 pack boat and they'll supply all the gear for you. But you know, don't go down there with the rod you were catching yellowfin in the summer a few years ago with, because you're not going to be set up to do that. Speaking of setups, I'd mentioned last week that I was going to share a rockfish rig, and I'm going to show you that right here. It's from a video I filmed recently. But I'm going to share a great bait rig that I use for fishing for lingcod with either mackerel or sand dab or any other big bait. And one of the problems you have with those is a lot of times they'll bite the bait on the side and they won't get your main hook. So what I've got here is what I consider to be my lingcod rig. And what I have here is I have a snelled 6.0 offset circle hook, octopus style circle hook, which has a longer shank. And I snelled this on here so I have a log tag end hanging down the bait to put my trap hook on. And the trap hook is just a Gamakatsu treble hook. What this allows me to do is, notice I don't actually have a mackerel, so it's in my garage here. But let's say it's a mackerel or some other bigger bait. I can nose hook this bait on there, and I have this treble hook on the leader that I can put somewhere near the tail. And that extra slack line really won't bother those fish at all. Now if a lingcod comes up and grabs this bait, it's getting a mouthful of treble hook. So that's a real good way to rig bigger baits. A sand dab, mackerel, big sardine, anything like that. Now, I've rigged this with 40-pound fluorocarbon here. You can go up to 60 if you want to. If you're in an area with a lot of big lings or an area where it's really heavy structure where you can get broke off easy. And speaking of which, you're going to want your weight to be on a leader that's lighter than your line you're fishing. So this is, normally I did with heavier line to show in the video here, but normally I would tie 12 or 15 pound from my sinker to my connection point for the rig. Now this is a solid ring from Gamakatsu. It's it's a 400-pound solid ring. What this allows me to do is tie a bunch of different lines together in a spot that I don't really need a swivel, and it gives me more room to tie. So I will pre-make these with my connection here tied to a ring. Then it's as simple as tying your sinker onto the ring as well, and then tying that to your main line. And if you break off your sinker, all you have to do is just retie that one section. If this gets chafed off, you can replace that section. So really simple rig, really effective for fishing lings with bigger baits. All right, well that's about it for this week. You know, we have good weather, a lot of boats running. If you guys want to get on a sport boat, there's plenty of day-and-a-half trips and 2-day trips running out of San Diego. There's boats online to go fish rockfish at Channel Islands or go on an overnight trip to Clemente or San Nick. If you got your own boat, I'd go Saturday. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might go to Clemente. Might just fish local again. The price of gas, catching smaller rockfish and scratching at bass might beat banking a long run. I'm not sure, but whatever you end up doing, have a great weekend and good luck if you're fishing.